Awesome. All right, everybody, welcome to the Profit Roadmap. This is the premier podcast created for field service pros to help you grow your business, stay on top of the latest trends, and help you provide even more value to your communities that you serve. Today, we have a special recording we're doing at our annual FieldEdge conference, and my co-hosts, we're lucky to have the original co-founder of the Profit Roadmap, Duplisea, today. Thank you, Bear.
Bekah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here at FieldEdge, obviously, and to be working with you. It takes me back to our days in the office at Service Autopilot when I annoyed the ever-living daylights out of you by talking too loud, as I'm doing right now.
It's a good day.
And so they're good times, good times. But this is a special podcast because we're here at FieldEdge. We're doing this live, and I really appreciate Ryan for allowing me to step in for him since he could not be here for this special occasion. But we've got we're going to just use the word special quite a bit. We've got a special guest today. We got Naylor Taliaferro. Naylor has a thriving lawn care business, Clean Cut Lawn Care Services. You might have heard, of course, you've heard of his successful YouTube channel, Lawn Care Rookie. And he is also the host of the popular podcast, LCR Media, which is dedicated to helping lawn care businesses like yours, not mine, like yours, yes. grow. Naylor, welcome to the Profit Roadmap.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Live podcasting is always fun because you get to, you have that personal interaction. I know I was on a podcast a while back with you guys. Yep, through Zoom, and that's the next best thing, right? When you can't be in person. But live events are always fun, and I've never been to a Service Autopilot, conference, and now it's evolved so much now, FieldEdge and everything. So it's good to be here at a different capacity. I was just going to be an attendee the first time. I almost came here in 2019, not necessarily here. I don't think it was at this location.
No, it was, yeah.
It was?
Yeah.
It was? Yeah. Wow, okay, yeah. So it was when Mike McAllowitz was the keynote speaker, and I wanted to see him so bad, and just had some family obligations come up that I couldn't get the right flights to come in and out the right times. Richmond, Virginia, it's a little airport, so we always have to stop at Atlanta and all this stuff. So anyway, I finally made it down here this time, and now I'm a speaker. So I wasn't anticipating that either. So that's awesome.
That's got to be a little bit surreal too. Like you were coming to watch a speaker, and then fast forward a couple of years, and you're one of the premier speakers that we've got. We're lucky to have you here. This is so exciting.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully I bring the value.
Oh, you always do. So take us a little bit back. Take us all the way back. We went back and past 2019, but talk to us a little bit about your business journey and how it all got started.
Yeah, well, I was always that homeowner that just loved lawn care, for my own personal benefit, and just kind of learned it the hard way because this was way before. Now it's 2023. I'd say it was maybe close to 20 years ago. I have to actually figure out my kids' ages. So it was 18 years ago when I got my first house, when we had our first house, and I had to figure out how to take care of lawns. Like how to grow grass from scratch, like all the little contraptions at all the big box stores and the little Ace Hardware, True Value type places, the mom and pop places. I even remember I found a local farmer that was, on the honor system had hay bales for you to use for whatever. And I used that to cover my grass seed, and I realized quickly that you don't use hay because there's a lot of weed seeds in there. You want to use straw. So, but anyway, I went through all kinds of trials and tribulations because there was no YouTube there. YouTube, I don't even know. I'm sure YouTube probably did exist 18 years ago, but it was like the most it was like nothing. There was no lawn care YouTube, no nothing. There was, when you Googled lawn care, Gopher software came up. That was some super old school desktop, thing. Like there was nothing out there. So you had to figure it out from scratch. So I was just a homeowner just trying to figure it out, getting books from the big box stores and then trial and error. And I just really fell in love with it. And that whole time I was in retail management for 15 years by the end of it. And I really wanted a different path in my life because it was really consuming everything about my life. It was kind of changing my personality a little bit. I wasn't as calm and enjoyable to be around. I was just grumpy, depressed, tired all the time. I was sick all the time. I worked all the time. And I just really couldn't, I wasn't really spending the time that I wanted with my young kids at the time, and obviously my wife and all that.
That does it right there.
Yeah, so I really had to press the hard reset button on my life like literally the hard reset button on my life and just change gears drastically. And all I could think of was lawn care because I loved lawns as a homeowner. And by that time, that was in 2014. So that was only 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago. So by then, 8 years after my first initial homeowner experiences, things had grown a lot on YouTube, and like YouTube was growing. People were putting content out back in like Jonathan Potoshnik, the lawn care millionaire. I think 2013 was when he started putting out content. I stumbled upon him in 2014, as many did at the Lawn Care Millionaire YouTube channel. So that was starting to happen. So it was more encouraging for those of us that wanted to start, a business, to have something to lean back on. And I already had like the foundation as a homeowner, but I'm like, how do I go from a homeowner to a pro contractor? And I started researching again, Google, and now there's a ton of stuff on Google as far as what there was originally 18 years ago, like the Lawn Care Millionaire and some other folks. So that's how I kind of really got connected with the community in the very beginning, but also how I was able to make that transition from homeowner to pro and just really figure it out quickly. And I jumped right out. I was part-time. I was still full-time retail management, did 1 year part-time mowing like 7 or 8 lawns with my push mower and my, big box store trimmer and hand blower, super like low key. Like I went through my lumps for a year.
All start somewhere.
Yeah. Like out of the back of my Jeep Compass, like literally.
Oh, you didn't even have a truck. You had a Jeep.
No, I had my Jeep Compass.
Pretty cool.
I literally went to
I was
work.
just thinking about the upkeep of cleaning it.
Yeah. I literally went to work with a change of clothes, and whenever I could get out of work after my like 10, 11, 12-hour day and there was still some daylight, I would just run downstairs. I would change my office because I was, management, sneak out the back, and then get in my Jeep and try and bang out as many yards as I could before dark. And then on my days off, I try to do it. So I had that hustle for that 1 year part-time, and then I was like, forget this. I can really make something out of this. And because my life was just really falling apart anyway. Like I said, I pressed that hard reset button and went all in full time and haven't looked back since.
Well, it's interesting because when Bekah and I used to work together in the office, we were alluding to this earlier, like we had our passions outside of the workplace, and she dabbles in it. I definitely dabble in it as well. But you took it to the next level, but it seemed like more than just like pastime, obviously. Like it became more of a passion, but it also became that kind of escape. And I think we were talking about this before, was the mental health aspect of that escape. So talk to us a little bit about that, how that kind of, because I know that's very important for you, how eventually founding this business and getting started was not just freeing, in a lot of sense, more time with family, which is so important, but what it did for you, in your health.
Yeah, especially because mental health is, I think that's a conversation that's not had enough, especially in business period. So what was that journey for you with mental health?
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely. Well, for one, physically, I used to get sick all the time when I was in retail management. Like literally, I would get like a cold to turn to bronchitis and an ear infection, laryngitis, sometimes all at the same time. One year going into Black Friday weekend, which is the Thanksgiving weekend, it's like the busiest time in retail.
It's hell. You can say it's hell.
Well, I bet
yeah. Right. Yeah. But I was like literally so sick. I had a double ear infection, laryngitis, and like my manager freaked out, and she was like, stay home for the rest of the week, take all your medicine. I need you for Black Friday. I will literally lose my mind if you can't come on Black Friday, because it's just insanity. At that time I worked for Toys R Us, which is absolute insanity. That was the year that she had to call that someone in the line in the herd called the New York police, because again, also I'm from the state of New York, so I was working at Toys R Us at that time. I now live in Virginia, but so like the New York police rolled up in there in Toys R Us, and the store manager was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you! I'm so glad you're." And they're like, "What do you?" Wow. They're like, "What do you want us to do?" Like, and she was like, "Can you please? I've been trying to get everyone to form a line. If you can please help me get them into a line, because it's crazy. People are like fighting. They're trying to grab all the stuff." And so two NYPD officers, two of them, corral. They proceeded to say, "Listen to me. You will follow this lady's instructions, or we will take you out of this building. And they quickly cattle, like just like forms, like it was cattle, like they just herded them all into a line and got everything all organized. Like leave it to the NYPD to to get it in shape. But
Black Friday's coming up, and I'm still not getting out.
exactly,
That seals the deal right there.
exactly. So I was just sick all the time, and literally as soon as I changed and started doing lawn care, I'm sure it's a combination of being outside and all that stuff, but the amount of stress relief and the mental clarity and being able to be my own boss and have my own schedule and do something I truly enjoy to do, which is being outside. My wife and I are outdoor people, which is why we moved to Virginia, because we love New York and everything. We're always New Yorkers. We bleed New York, but we, those of you that know, it's 2 seasons, hot and cold. That's it. Like, 6 months out of the year, you maybe get like 4 or 5 months of hot, and the whole rest is cold and snowy. And hey, we're getting another foot, back to you, Bob. It's just like whatever, So we just wanted to move somewhere further south so we could have more of the 4 seasons and not 2 for more than like a day or so. So yeah, Virginia is really good. It's that good transition state on so much. Like for grass, it's a transition zone. You can grow any type of turf, warm season, cool season. The seasons are obviously longer. So it was great for lawn care, right? Like it's very foreshadowing. But so that all of that probably also helped me with my health physically, and then the whole mental aspect. And what I've noticed recently is that allowed me to be in like a meditative state that I had never accessed before in my life. Like literally everything that you have known listening, whether those of you listening, those of you that I'm looking at, and everyone that's going to listen to me speak that may know me or whatever, every single idea and / event, piece of content that I've come up with, whether it be my original series, Get to Know the Pro, where I went and traveled to see like Marvin Salcedo down here in Texas, and a lot of folks, and do a shop tour and interview them and see their guys at work and all that, to all the events that I put on, to how do I turn the rally at Equip to what it is now with, from like 50 people at a pizza place to 600 people at the Yum Center.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sensational. Like
Yeah.
so many business owners sharing ideas.
Exactly. And all those ideas came from just me being on a lawnmower, just peacefully, just striping, just yard after yard, day after day, methodically and peacefully and therapeutically, just rebuilding myself, listening to self-help books, motivation, business, podcasts, audiobooks, all that stuff. That's how I stumbled upon Mike Michalowicz early on, because Stan Dirt Monkey Genetic, he's one of the OGs of our community as well. He's got a huge YouTube channel and has done a lot of things and a lot of events. And he had a podcast back in the day. It was one of the first lawn care podcasts, and I used to listen to it those first couple of years while he had it going. And Mike Michalowicz was one of his guests, and talking about the Prop First plan and all that stuff was educating me and rebuilding me so that I could be the 2.0 version of myself, right?
Oh,
Me 2.0.
There you go.
Nice.
Turning his hat around for people who are just listening.
Yeah.
Just want to point that out.
Yeah. Those of you on camera, you can see that there.
No, I like that. Because I think we talk about personas, like there's the social media persona. Like, like when I first met you for the first time, like, and I have to think that what you're talking about a second ago has led into that. You have this very calming presence, in our just, private conversation a few times that I've met you, and you bring the energy on social media. You got to. That's different, right, and everything. I mean, has that always been, or is this what you're talking about, that you were a different person before, and the 2.0 version is this authentic self of yourself? Yeah, I mean, a little bit of a combination of things. Like, I definitely think it helped unlock, my true personality. But at the same time, I am a very calm, quiet, low keel, behind the scenes person. But being in retail retail management specifically for 15 years, you always have to put your manager cap on. And it's like going on stage and performing. And I'd be exhausted all the time. That's why I would get sick. And, I used to have headaches all the time. I rarely get headaches. Like all these terrible physical manifestations of the stress that I was immersing myself with. And I never planned on being in retail for that long at all. It was just like something out of college. People identified that I had leadership
skills, and I was like, okay. And I just kind of rose through the ranks, and and I was single, so I didn't care. I was like, all right, I'll just make that money and figure it out. And then I met my wife, and we got married, had kids, and I'm like, all right, my life's going one way and retail's going another way. I think I need to rethink things. But I had never planned to be in retail, so I just wanted to make that a point. It's not like I got into that industry thinking I was going to love it or anything, and then I got all stressed out. It was just kind of a thing that I did,
Right.
and I just excelled in it. But it took a toll on me mentally and physically. But so I was used to being extroverted when I needed to be, which happened to be like 5 to 6 days a week all the time. And then I'd come home and I would just kind of like, ugh, and I'd be like a different person, like more myself, but also it would start getting to be not myself. And people would say towards the last couple of years of my retail management, man, you're such a calm, even key. Like most managers would freak out, spaz out. The stress would get to them. I never screamed on anybody. I never lost my mind. Sometimes I'd be a little like on Black Friday. You couldn't help but have that extra energy pumping through you, So I'd be a little,
pure adrenaline.
Yeah, I'd be a little extra jittery, but still compared to everybody else, I'm down here and everyone else is like, so I would still have a more of a calm demeanor, and people would joke like, man, we know it's about to go down if you start losing your mind. Like it's like literally the world's coming to an end around here if you can't keep it together. And the thing that got me though is that the reason why I had to press the hard reset button on my life is because I started to resemble someone I didn't recognize, and I was becoming the person that they said that I wasn't, that I was good at not being. I was starting to become that edgy, like extra sarcastic, like just resentful, spiteful, not nice anymore to people, and people giving me looks like, what in the world was that for? Like I was becoming that person everywhere, not just at work, but in my life.
That's super ugly.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's really why I had to press the hard reset button. But doing everything in lawn care and everything that gave me was freedom of mind, and allowed me to access so many opportunities that I just really didn't. I didn't even know were there, like all these things. And every time I listen to an audiobook or a podcast where someone says something, it like unlocks something else in my mind. Like I'm a true believer in so many of so many mindset things.
Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of it sometimes could be a little hokey and whatever, but I definitely know that the mind is a powerful thing, and if you think it, you can make it, you can create it. Every single thing in our world is from someone's imagination, and if you imagine it, then it's a possibility.
It's like a. Have you ever read The Power of Now?
No, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. A lot of what you're saying reminds me of that, but it's just about being present in the now moment. It's not like living in the past, future. A lot of what you're saying also reminded me of. So I teach yoga. I do a lot of yoga and meditation, and I got into that because at a certain point in my life, I was so with myself. I didn't recognize myself. I was like turning into this person. Like, so your journey kind of reminded me of that, and so that was my turning point. Like getting into like self-healing, self-help, yoga, meditation. So a lot of the tools you were mentioning, like the meditative state, podcasts, and things like that.
Yeah.
Can you speak more on that? Like, what do you use? What else do you use, or that to help you?
Yeah.
With that journey?
Well, I mean, so literally mowing lawns is like my meditation, and I've struggled with this situation because as my social media grows, as my network grows, because I'm not like the biggest YouTuber by any means, but I have a big network. My network is bigger than anything else. I just know so many people and have connected with so many people and connected so many people. It's hard to do both. It's hard to have my lawn care business at the capacity that I want it to be without the right people to run it and all that stuff, and then be able to continue putting on these events and new events and creating the content and doing stuff that I really truly love. I like mowing lawns, but I love connecting the lawn and landscape community and hanging out with all you guys here and telling stories like this and sharing and helping everyone grow. And I can impact thousands versus hundreds of lawn care and landscape clients, where I can impact thousands and thousands of people. 600 people that went to the rally had the time of their life, according to everyone that told me, they or the potential to have the time of their life. And so it's been difficult to do both. And I think to myself, well, what if I sell my lawn care business, or if I downsize it or whatever, like I still need that mowing, like what am I going to do? I still need that meditative, state. So it's like
contract when you sell it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna come back and work part-time here.
Yeah, and striping my one lawn in my house isn't gonna do the trick. So I definitely think about how to figure that out, because not everyone's going to be mowing lawns and get meditative in that state. But there's several books that I'm not good at. Some people that I know that are really good at recalling all the books and authors that they read and listen to. But there's so many that I've listened to, but there's several of them that talk about putting yourself in the flow state, like getting your mind in that flow state, and it like unlocks something in your mind, not your brain. Your brain is the muscle. Your mind is what is you, like your consciousness, everything that makes you, and all that stuff. So
Say that again. No, seriously, say that again.
Like that.
what's that?
About the mind and the brain.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Your brain is the muscle. Your mind is you. It's everything about you. It's your personality. It's everything that you do. Your thinking. Your brain doesn't do the thinking. Your brain creates the muscle it's like your bicep moves your arm, curls your arm one way, your tricep extends it the other way. Your brain allows your personality, your mind, everything about your being to function, as well as function your body, so that you can move around and function in this world, so that your mind has a vessel to be able to go around and do stuff without getting super deep into it. But that's the reality of it. I mean, if you look at if you think about if you think about science, it's just facts. Like just think about it. We know what our bicep and our tricep do. Whether that's we created that name, a bicep and a tricep, but we know this muscle does this and this muscle does that.
Right.
We know the brain has to power all of those things based on all the things that we've done in science to figure that out. Well, but it's not the brain, it's the mind. The mind is a term for us. You could say your spirit, all these things to basically talk about who you are, and you need to unlock that. And when your brain, just like any other muscle that's fatigued, if you fatigue your arm muscles, you can't lift things or push things or whatever as well. You injure them. You can injure your brain. You can overwork your brain, and then you're not thinking so good, right? You're not thinking clearly. You're foggy. You're not able to come up with good ideas. You're tripping. You're stumbling. Some of your words, you're tripping physically. You're just maybe you're extra sarcastic and edgy with people. It's because you're overworking your brain, which is giving you the control of your body, and your mind is part of that, your personality, and everything about that. So when you can unlock that, when you can free, when you can exercise this is what it is. When you can exercise your mind, just like you exercise the rest of your body at the gym or outside, just like you get stronger physically, you will get stronger mentally. And then you can all of a sudden start thinking of all these crazy ideas, like my friend Paul Jameson, the Green Street Podcast, talks about. I always call him with these crazy ideas, like the morning show at Expo. That's another epic, event that we have that we just had, and 600 people. They added 150 chairs this year, and it was still standing room only, double row. So over 600 people to that now, where we podcast live on stage and interview guests, and the audience gets to ask us questions, and it's all recorded, and we upload it after the fact. So that was another crazy idea that literally came to my brain while I was on my lawnmower. So it's like, how can you listening, and me, if I'm not going to mow lawns in the same capacity, how do we unlock that? Is it meditation? Is it going for a run? Is it social media is good for a lot of things, like Instagram, and I'll just say Instagram because it's safer. Instagram, there's a lot of motivational, if you can start like clicking on things and searching things and liking things and get that algorithm to pump all that motivational stuff to you. There's a lot of great reels out there where people are running down like an awesome road or a dirt path in the woods, and they got cool music playing or motivational captions or whatever. And that alone can help kind of get you in a flow state if you kind of watch enough of that. But my point is, you can use those as examples of things that you can do maybe to get yourself in that flow state. Go for a run, go for a walk, go to the gym. I love mountain biking. Go for a mountain bike ride. I zone out when I do that too, as long as it's a trail I've done over and over again. You have to do it. I'll end this conversation with that potentially, is that with this, you have to make sure it's something that is repetitive, something that you're not having to think critically about. If you're plowing snow, or you're mowing a lawn, or you're running down somewhere, running a path you've always ran, or bike riding or mountain biking a path. But as soon as you're doing something new and you have to pay attention, you're not in that flow state anymore because your mind is focusing on different things. Your brain is doing more work than your mind. Your brain is trying to focus on, all the muscle memory and all the things and all the reaction time to everything, whatever you're doing. So that's a lot of stuff there that I just kind of fired out.
It got me thinking a lot about, so like we were talking about just like motivational stuff. I go back to some of my reading, and of course it's very cliche, but you think about Robert Frost, and you think about the road less traveled and everything. And it brings about a really important question. And the reason I made you repeat that statement a second ago, one, it really impacted me personally.
Wow.
And I think it was really impactful for our listeners too. But the problem is that in today's society, people don't talk about it. It's in now. It's a fad. Talk about mental health. There's a lot of apps. I have a couple on my phone. But why do you think people are still hesitant to not only talk about it, but take that road less traveled? Do what you did.
That is a good question. And I just think there's none, because there isn't or wasn't enough people inspiring them to do it. So before I went to Equip, I was at my local equipment dealer, that fixes your mowers, sells your stuff, all that. We become good friends over the years. Even before they knew I was on social media, I built a good relationship with them, because that's key for a lawn care business. You want to have a good relationship with your dealer. So I was there, they were just fixing something for me real quick or whatever. And there was another, I meet a lot of local guys there. Some of them know who I am, some of them don't. And one of my friends that does know who I am and listens to my podcast regularly, he just happened to be there as well. And he was like, "You going to Equip this year?" I'm like, "Yeah." How about you? He's like, "No, I'm too," he had the typical response, like that, "No, I'm," and I get it. Cause I've been there too. It takes a lot of planning and discipline to be able to get yourself there, especially when you're solo. It's hard because you got all this work to do. It's like, well, what do I just skip all that stuff? So I'm not going to go down that path. I talk about that on my podcast too, but ultimately, he wasn't going to Equip, and he was like, some of my and he just randomly said, some of my favorite podcasts that you have are with Keith Kalfas with the Landscape Employee Trap, who's a popular OG person on social media. He's like, those are my favorite podcast because you guys always talk about the mental game. You talk about the mindset and the mental aspect, because it's not always sunshine and rainbows. It's not always about cool equipment, all this stuff. Like, there's a lot of hard days where we're just not in a good mood, or we're dealing with a lot of stuff and people are depressed and all this stuff. And he was just really going all out. And I'm like, wow, thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it. And I said, well, good thing I'm interviewing him live on stage at the morning show, so look out for that. And that's literally the topic that we talked about, and we went deep into it. The audience was asking questions about it too, and something I'm going to say tomorrow, if I remember, at my talk, is I felt like somebody asked a question, what, people always talk about what would you tell your past self, or if you can go back in time, what would you do differently, all that kind of stuff. Someone asked, what about in the future? What would you tell, if you go in the future, what would you tell your future self? And basically my answer to that was, well, one thing, I'm not going to tell, I don't want to go back in the past and change anything, because that's going to affect that might potentially affect where I'm at today. I might not have, the same situation. I might have different kids, whatever. Like, that's speculation. We don't know. But potentially, if you change a certain amount of things in time, it might change who you are. Like what I believe is a fact is your experiences in life make you who you are. So if you change the experiences, I believe that would change who you are in some extent. It could be a lot, or it could be minor, or it couldn't be anything. So I don't want to ever go back in the past and change anything. I think it'd be cool to like see stuff and learn from history to help you grow, but I wouldn't want to change anything. And in the future, I wouldn't really want to mess. I wouldn't really want to mess with the future either. So what I focus on is the present.
Yeah.
And presently, what I'm doing is focusing on turning my past insecurities into my future strengths.
Wow.
That's what I'm focusing on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like part of my my network is my net worth talk tomorrow. But and one example is people would always say, you talk too much or you talk a lot. I'm like, okay, well, now that's my strength. Now apparently I'm going to be speaking,
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to be up on stage speaking. I created the morning show to speak on stage. I have a podcast. Like, okay, I'll just lean into that then. Just like Jonathan, he was joking. I gonna ad lib that tomorrow too. But he was joking. He's like, nothing's quick. I don't answer questions quick. Like because he's a talker too. He gets into it, and people just sit there, and he's always like, like to me, he's like, am I talking too much? Or if I'm with a group, am I talking too much? And we're like, no, just keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. It's just all gold. Yeah. So I'm at this point now in my life where I can identify all that. I know I don't know everything or anything necessarily, but I've focused on certain things, like the insecurities, turning those into my strengths, and what I'm good at already, like my leadership skills, my network building, and collaborating with all types of folks to create hopefully really impactful, valuable things.
Do you have people, well, whenever you're having these talks and discussions, that come up to you with misconceptions about mental health, about getting help, things like that?
No, everyone comes up to me and thanks me for talking about it. Like literally every single person. Like it's different. Every content creator has a different group of people and a different group of people, or the same similar overlap, but they talk about different things. And everyone that talks to me always thanks me for the content that I bring, because I focus a lot about on the mental aspect, and I share the ups and the downs on my podcast, on my social media. It's not all a highlight reel and all that stuff. And I try to be as transparent as possible while respecting other people's privacy that might be involved in the story. That's not me, like wife, kids, friends, things like that, employees, whatever. I'm going to, respect their privacy. But for myself personally, how I'm thinking, what I'm doing, what I've experienced, I'm pretty transparent with it. Even if I have to wait until the wounds heal, I'm still transparent.
Right. Do you think community has a role? And because I was having a conversation with my friend about this with mental health, and there was a homeless person we saw down the street, and we just got on this whole conversation about the role of society and the community and taking care of each other, being there for each other, not letting someone fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
Do you see the role of responsibility that's lacking or getting better in the
absolutely. I think for some reason society or the world is trying to go against the grind of what we are at the core as human beings. We are social beings.
Right. And
for some reason we're so separated. I mean, I'm not going to go into all the reasons, but you know what I mean? Like, but we're so separated, but really we are we should be together. We don't want, to the core, we don't want to be alone. We want to be together in groups. And speaking of that is something that probably contributed to unlocking a lot of things within me, because, and I've been talking about this a lot. This has been, I guess, a thing for 2023. I've been starting to say it's a pretty personal year for me. A lot of more self-discovery or rediscovery. But, I grew up, like, people have been asking me early in this year on other podcasts, like, why do you do all this? Like, why, like, how, like in a good way, like, you're like the event guy, like you just do all these things, and what motivates you to do all this stuff? And I finally must have just had like that realization, and now I'm just sharing it, that I was an only child. My mother like worked multiple jobs to try and support us, still government assistance. My father was not in the picture, and I was home alone a lot. I was an only child, so there was no other family. My extended family was not close, like didn't live close to us. And for that, and probably just other reasons, I wasn't really that close with them. So I just had a few select, really close best friends over the years as I was growing up. And, I kind of had a quote unquote network, right, of just acquaintances through school that I would acquire through other friends. But I just had a very small, close group, or not even a group, a small selection of friends. But I always had that deep desire for community. I always wanted to feel like I had family. I wanted to be a part of a family in that sense of community, because at the core, I think that's what we all want. That's human beings. We're not meant to be whatever the word is that means single, like by yourself, isolated. We're not meant to be that. So it's just one of those things where I think discovering all these series of events, pressing the hard reset button, being in retail, I was around a lot of people. So that was kind of a thing that made me feel a little bit better, but it was so stressful, the environment, that it kind of took a lot away from that. And then transitioning to lawn care, and then stumbling upon the YouTube community in its infancy, and then being a part of that growth from the very beginning. And now it's just been like the driving factor behind all that is the desire for community, to be a part of something bigger, and to be a part of a family friends, all that. And that's where I just keep pushing hard to grow and grow and grow the community.
You were able to unlock so many things. You talked about the solace of being on the mower. You talk about, this desire for a community of extended family, if you will, and you get to impact so many people without necessarily direct conversation like we're having, but through your, your network, as you said. It kind of gives me, going back to what we were talking about, like why do people so hesitate to talk about this? Other than obviously the amazing resources you provide, do you have any other resources that you recommend to people they're looking to change their mental game?
Well, definitely audiobooks and podcasts are helpful because listening is better than watching in a lot of ways because
1,000%.
Yeah. And it's a lot. I mean, from a practical standpoint, it's harder to sit and watch a 30-minute video or show or whatever. But you can literally listen to something and be driving at the same time, but you're not going to be safely watching something and driving. For one example, you can't be mowing lawns and watching a video, but you can listen to stuff. So that's why I really for that. But also, there's something different about when things go into your ears, directly into it's literally going directly into your brain. I know visually things go directly into your brain too, and we are visual human beings, but there's something different about learning through listening. Sometimes visually people can be distracted, like it takes me a while. So I really have to be in the right moment to be able to read like a book, because like I'll get like lost in thought or distracted. But when I'm listening to stuff, it like dials me in immediately.
Yeah, it pumps in there.
Yeah.
Right. You're absolutely on something.
So whether it's podcasting, audiobooks, or both, just search some stuff. Like you can literally Google, self-help or mindset or mental or whatever, maybe even some symptoms you might have. Yeah, like positive mindset, motivational, like just some of these key words and see what comes up. Of course, there's going to be all kinds of like things to pay for, right? There's going to be all kinds of programs and apps and this and that, which might not be bad to look into, but there should also be any content related to that, whether it be a YouTube video, a podcast, audiobook, all the above, and start going through that, because that's how I stumble. And once you start going down that path, things just, Google is Google, and they start recommending things and all that. And that's good in that scenario, because now you're getting fed more and more of what you want to see. And when you want to see positive things, that's a good scenario for that. So you just keep, feeding yourself with all these different audiobooks and podcasts and going to live events. A lot of people are stressed out and, anxious about being in big crowds when they have more mental illness or mental challenges. That's another motivation for for growing the rally, because it got so big quickly when I kind of like took, quote unquote, took over the leadership role. It got so crowded that at the local restaurant that people weren't going because they were freaked out, and they were like texting me or messaging me like, oh, it's crazy. There's too many people. It's too crowded. There's nowhere to park. They just freak out. And I know from personal experience, I would have that situation too. Like if you go somewhere you're not familiar with, you've never been there, you're by yourself maybe. And it's like just that alone is like takes a lot of strength, and then you don't know where to park, and there's people standing everywhere like, oh my gosh, so I'm like, I don't want anyone to feel left behind. So let me just keep finding bigger spaces so that we can fit everybody as the community grows, so people don't feel left out, and just keep growing that. But I just say keep feeding yourself full of, like I said, the content, that's out there. There's tons of great content, not just from me, but so many other folks, and then coming to different live events and all the networking in between. Absolutely. It's really going to help.
And it's worth it. I think it's totally worth it, because like you spoke earlier, your mental state, the stress, it can bring on physical manifestations that make you physically ill. So you can change your mind, you can change your world.
Yeah. Well, when your brain is strained or stressed out, it causes dis-ease. What is that word?
Yeah.
Disease. So that's what the word disease means. It means your body is at dis-ease. You're straining it on so many different levels that you're creating that. So if you can just, get rid of that as best as possible, and now of course there's doctors obviously for things, right? Yes. You want to seek medical advice for mental health as well as physical health. Not everything can be solved by an audiobook or a podcast, of course, but getting your mind right is where it all starts, in my opinion. And it did for me anyway. It changed so much for me. And I'm not perfect. My life's not perfect, but like, I went through COVID. Everyone got COVID that in my whole life, and I got COVID, and I was like taking care of everybody else that got COVID because I was barely sick, and everybody else was like literally seemed like they were dying, and it was terrible. So I just feel like everything strengthened. Again, you never know what could happen in the future, but all these years of me strengthening my mind has then strengthened my body. And of course, I go to the gym. I do all types of stuff. I try to eat healthy. But some people do all that and they still, bad things happen. And maybe their mind's not right potentially. Maybe they have a lot of stress, in their life that is internally causing dis-ease that manifests itself physically. So I try to do everything. My whole goal has been trying to live as long of a life as possible after all the stress that I put myself through in retail management. And I just don't want to cut my life short by being so stressed out. So I want to do everything that gives me energy and positivity and that I love to do and that I'm passionate about to hopefully fill myself with all of the good stuff, all the good vibes and the healing and all that, and impact as many people as I can while I'm here.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a great place.
That's a great place to kick off Service Edge Conference.
I could keep on talking about this all day, but I know you have other things to do and go to, Naylor. And I thank you so much for sitting down with us and talking with us on this important topic. If people want to find out more about you and like your business and what you're doing, like where can they find you?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. This is awesome. Again, like I said, I always love sharing my story or just talking in general, right?
Yeah.
It's always great times. But everywhere, every social media platform that I know of that isn't just created yesterday, I guess, but all the major platforms, podcasts, Instagram, YouTube, all that, even TikTok, even though I try to stay off of there, but I do have an account on there and Snapchat and all those things. It's Lawn Care Rookie or LCR. You just type in LCR or Lawn Care Rookie, and either one of those should come up. You could just Google LCR or Lawn Care Rookie, and you'll see all the stuff that way too. The LCR Media Podcast is a little more specific, but everything else is LCR or Lawn Care Rookie.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, listening and watching in. Remember, you can listen to this podcast and watch it on YouTube too, on all major streaming platforms. So Apple, YouTube, Spotify, and more. And please visit our show notes at serviceautopilot.com/podcast to get the links to all topics we discussed today. And if you have more questions, please email us at profitroadmap@exploretechnologies.com. That is spelled XPLOR. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Naylor.
Thank you.